Carlos Delgado. I'm an architect here in Ashland. Been here for 25 years and excited to talk to you, Steve.
Great. Thank you for being here. I hear that you were involved in kind of these pre-approved plans for accessory dwelling units. Can you tell us about how that started and how you got involved?
Yeah, prior to the Alameda fire, I was engaging with Matt Brinkley of the planning director in Medford, because they wanted to get their program going for ADUs and promoting ADUs in Medford. And during that process, the Alameda fire occurred, and I said to him, hey, I really would be involved in this if you can make this more transferable to those communities, because it's a great model for increasing the density of housing, as you all know from the housing bill. So I just found that program to be more exciting to work on, because there was going to be further use of having ADUs in the valley.
Right. And so these plans are, quote, pre-approved. What does that mean? Does it mean you have to accept them exactly as they are? Is there some flexibility for change?
Well, pre-approved means that you don't have to go through the process of submitting for a permit. They're literally ready to pick up. And I'm not sure, I don't think there's a fee for them, but I think they're reducing SDC charges for doing the ADUs. But what pre-approved really means is that there's no more review for structural and code review. They're ready to be built. And there is room in there. We designed them to be more what's called prescriptively structurally designed, so that any person can look to the code book and use the charts for beam sizes, etc. But they're already in there. But if you make changes, they can do them themselves with a little bit of assistance of a knowledgeable builder. They are meant to be as is, but there is room, obviously, for finishes and siding materials, roof, windows, all of that. Plumbing fixtures, you name it. It's really just about having a two code structure built in your property.
Mm-hmm. So what's really pre-approved is the structural part, and the planners don't really care what kind of sink you use or siding, and not so much. I mean, you need to specify it, but it gives you a lot of design flexibility within the structural setup of what you've designed.
It does, yeah.
Okay, great. And so when you were designing these, what were you, obviously you're optimizing them and kind of considering how to make it really workable, but what other things did you have in mind as you were designing these sets of plans? What are the three sets? And
well, what we did was, I took probably about 15 ADUs that we've done over 25 years for clients in the valley, and we synthesized what we felt was the best efficient layout for each of the units. We did a studio, a 1-bedroom, and a 1-bedroom over a garage. And just from learning from clients and seeing how people operate in them, we just basically did the basics of what people need to live and happily. I mean, we always have a couple in mind on any of them, and then the 1-bedroom could be a couple with a child or an elderly, etc. So we really kind of thought about the efficiency of framing, and getting these things to they're less expensive to build, whether you do trusses, whether you do the package with a prefab panelized wall system. That's Pacific Walls, who has helped with developing the plans for Medford, because somebody walking up to the counter could either choose to work with that company to have a panelized system for floors, walls, and roof, or have a framer build all of it themselves.
That's cool. So that makes it even more efficient, that you can get them basically off the factory floor instead of having them all hand done.
Correct.
Okay, that's really interesting. And so as the plans came together, is there particular parts of the plan that you really enjoy, like you feel like you're proud of certain elements of it, or how do you think what do you think people really like about those plans?
Well, the basics of them are, and hopefully, it depends on the property. People could have a solar orientation of south exposure to have light and, have solar gain in the winter in them. it really depends, because every property is may not have that with trees and the house, the residents themselves, the main residence. But again, I think just the efficiency of how they're laid out, we're pretty proud of. But there's room for, let's say you just decide not to do the 1 bedroom, you could just take the partition out and have one large room if you want to do that. But obviously, I think for investment purposes, the number of bedrooms really helps to kind of keep your equity in the property.
Mm-hmm. And so so it's interesting to get around to kind of the business of ADUs and how it makes sense for a family to do that. Can you talk about your own personal experience and any kind of advice or encouragement that you can give to people who are considering adding an ADU to their property?
Well, I would say certainly the last 15 years, it's been a demand of many of our clients when we're doing if we're doing a house ground up or doing a renovation project. Many have asked how to integrate an ADU into their property because it makes sense investment wise. It's another source of income rental. It increases the value of the property. It fits the niche of having a smaller unit for the workforce in the valley. A lot of people, I find out, actually do rent theirs out to somebody that can't afford a 1,200 to 1,800 square foot house, but they can afford a 500 to 800 square foot ADU to rent. And I myself personally have a property that we have a rental unit on it that we actually, in our situation, we do a lot of trades for help on our land, but it's a viable source for housing for the need.
Mm-hmm.
And the model that I like to think about is that, why build 2,000 square feet when you can build 1,400 square feet plus a 600 square foot unit, the same square footage. Of course, it costs a little more because you're either separating it as a detached structure, or there's some code and fire rating issues when you're attached. But regardless, it's minimal in terms of what you're getting back for providing 2 bona fide residences,
Mm-hmm.
and in the case of talent, possibly 3.
Wow. Yeah, and you talked about the housing bill earlier. Can you talk a little bit more about the opportunity created by some of those changes at the state level?
Yeah, you mean you're talking about
Well, just the density that's now allowed on a single family lot.
Oh, right. Yeah, I mean, we are mandated to have at least 2 residences on a single family tax lot right now. And in the case, you had to do a conditional use permit, et cetera. And it depends which jurisdiction. Every place has been different. And I think that alone has driven the desire to see what one can do, because a few years ago it was sometimes impossible because you'd be beyond the density that's required on the you'd be over the density on a single family tax lot, because before you had to be in a multifamily lot. So for those of you listening around what this really means, there's some subtleties between how the city or jurisdiction looks at multifamily versus single family. It can be complex, but the simple fact is now that two can be allowed on a single family tax lot.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, my reading of it is that if you own a single family tax lot in Oregon, you've just got a huge potential windfall by being encouraged to add another unit on that lot.
Right.
It's not every town. You have to have the space on your lot. You have to have a pretty good sized lot.
Right.
But it's kind of an amazing opportunity for homeowners.
Yep. And what I actually like about it is that there's been a trend and desire to have smaller homes. And when you think about what you have to do on a property, you just mentioned that, if the tax lot isn't big enough, it forces you to make the primary home smaller. It just does. So if you're looking at renovating a house or building a new, just to shoehorn in that ADU, you're going to think about making your main house smaller, which is what we need to do, is to decrease the size of the homes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Carlos, thank you for your time. Thank you for all your work and in the community and helping us to have these beautiful plans available. And have a great day.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve.